Welcome back to CBS Sports HQ. Running backs could return in a big way this season in fantasy football. Here's a look at the FFE top 12 running backs led by Christian McCaffrey, followed by Breece Hall, Bijan Robinson, Jonathan Taylor, and Jahmyr Gibbs in the top 5. Interesting note, 12 running backs eclipsed the 1,000-yard rushing mark last year, but we know those who also can catch the football considered elevated assets. All right, let's welcome in Dave Richard to talk about the tiers. And it's an interesting conversation that you have with Jamie Eisenberg, with Heath Cummings, in terms of how you project some of the top running backs. And we've asked you to do it in different positions to put them in buckets right now. So take me through tier 1 and Jonathan Taylor, who made the cut. And it wasn't all that long ago, Dave, that Jonathan Taylor was the top overall pick in many drafts.
It was 2 seasons ago. He averaged over 20 PPR points per game, and that was in a year where running back scoring was down. But I still think he's got the potential to jump right back up, and that's why he still makes the tier 1 for running backs for me. And you look at the offense in Indianapolis, and you think to yourself, yeah, they're going to be able to run the ball quite a bit. They've got a good offensive line. They've got a great quarterback who can run in Anthony Richardson. And I know that people are worried about Anthony Richardson taking work away from Jonathan Taylor. My answer to that is that it'll make Taylor more efficient. We see that with rushing quarterbacks all the time. The running backs that they work with, very, very efficient. And last year, not Taylor's best year. He averaged just over 15 PPR points per game. Some of it was because he got off to a late start to the season. Remember, he was on the PUP list. Remember all that holdout talk with Jonathan Taylor? You're nodding your head, Tommy. You remember that. But in the games where he played at least 49% of the snaps, there were 8 of them. He averaged almost 18 PPR points per game. 18. And I think that's close to his ceiling. He makes the cut as a late round 1 pick for me, even in full PPR.
Real quickly, we know format matters here, but just the tier 1 guys, are they all first round guys, or is it first round with some bleeding over into early round 2?
So if you can get Taylor in round 2 or Saquon in round 2, obviously you'd be happy to take that. And in a couple leagues, I think you will be able to, but in non-PPR, half PPR, expect them all to go in round 1.
Okay, so we saw the tier there, 1, 2, and 3. Jahmyr Gibbs is in the top of tier 2. Now he's dealing with a hamstring issue, but don't worry, Lions fans and fantasy managers. Dan Campbell saying, look, he could be back as early as next week. So again, Gibbs, like Bijan Robinson, we were so bullish on them as rookies a year ago. Dave, what do we think about Gibbs leading this tier today?
I think he's got the best shot of these running backs to finish with the most PPR points. And so that's why he's at the top of tier 2, but he's not quite in tier 1. And I think the hamstring plays into that a little bit. And David Montgomery's there too. Let's give Montgomery credit. He's going to be the guy that works at the goal line. But take a look at what Gibbs did last year. He averaged 16.1 PPR points per game. That was his average in his final 9 games of the regular season. He was basically sharing close to even with David Montgomery. And in the playoffs, Tommy, their last 3 games against tough defenses, it's the playoffs, Gibbs averaged what would have been 16.9 PPR points per game. He was better than Montgomery, even in non-PPR. And I know that Montgomery's got that goal line role. Don't let that scare you off of Jahmyr Gibbs. If you look at him as a top 10 running back and you see him after guys like Kyron Williams and Isaiah Pacheco are off the board, his receiving upside is huge. And what would happen if David Montgomery, who's the older running back of the 2, were to miss some time? We saw it last year when Gibbs was the main guy in that offense. Man, his numbers took off. I like getting him in early round 2 if I can.
And we saw that graphic. You're higher on Gibbs than Jamie and Heath, and even Sportsline's projections as well. We saw Derrick Henry, former rushing king, another one that we'll talk about, which is sort of on this tier 2/3 border. And again, we're having a conversation in PPR mode, Dave. I'm curious to think, take me through Henry where you have him currently, and would he be valued higher in non-PPR?
He would be valued significantly higher in non-PPR because those catches that he doesn't get don't count, and now he can go and just get a ton of total yards and touchdowns in Baltimore. And last year was his first time in 5 seasons not finishing as a top 5 running back on a per game basis in full PPR, Tommy. So even though he wasn't getting a lot of catches in Tennessee, he was still a beast. He was game script dependent in 2023. The Titans offense was bad. The offensive line was bad. Now he's going to Baltimore. This is an offense that loves to run the football. Their offensive line isn't great, but it's better than what Tennessee's was last year. Henry will be the lead running back there. He's working with a rushing quarterback. That'll improve his efficiency. He's even good out of shotgun runs, which is what the Ravens do a lot of. He averaged almost 5 yards per carry out of that last year. And the best part of all is that if he's going to be game script dependent this year, the Ravens are going to win a lot of games. That's what John Harbaugh and company do. Gus Edwards, 13 touchdowns last year on the ground, 12 of them inside the 5. Where are all those touchdowns going this year? Not going to Justice Hill. Not many will go to Lamar Jackson. They're going to Derrick Henry. I like getting him in round 2 as well.
So round 2 for Henry, but again, we're talking about non-PPR. Would it be the top of tier 2, or did he dip into tier 1?
I think you might take him late round 1, early round 2 in non-PPR.
All right, so we had that graphic there of the top 3 tiers for Dave Richard. Then we're going to extend that even more because you're looking for value. You're looking for guys that you can backfill in terms of RB2. Let's start with tier 4, where there are 4 running backs here, and our colleague Heath Cummings has some concern for James Conner. Do you share those concerns, and how do you view Conner in this particular situation?
I think fantasy managers can expect at least one more good season out of James Conner. The worry is that he's 29 years old. He's missed games each of the past few seasons. You can't count on him to be there every single week, but there aren't a lot of running backs that you look at and say, oh yeah, that guy's going to be healthy for 17 games. It's just not going to happen. But this Arizona offense is going to be better than it was last year. And last year he averaged 15.5 PPR points per game overall, 17.8 PPR points per game when Kyler Murray was on the field. Last time I checked, Kyler Murray is going to be ready to go week 1 for Arizona. And this offense is going to be better. They're going to be in a lot of high-scoring games because their defense is pathetic. And James Conner's been over 15 PPR points per game each of the past 3 seasons. I will accept the fact that I will not have him for every week of the regular season, but I'll get him for most of the weeks. I think the 29-year-old can still be very good, and you're getting him in round 5, round 6. This is not a second-round pick type of player. You're getting good value on a running back that you can start, and once he's off the board, there aren't a lot of running backs left that you'll look at and say that about. So I think James Conner is just fine as an RB2.
It's interesting, sort of a conversation of where you think Arizona is going to finish in terms of amount of wins, but I think in terms of fantasy assets, Murray, McBride, Harrison, and Conner, certainly there's going to be pretty popular assets for fantasy managers come draft time. We also want to talk about Aaron Jones, who stays in the division but moves teams, of course, from Green Bay to Minnesota. What's the outlook on him?
I'm nervous about him staying healthy for less than 14 games, maybe even half the season. We saw it last year. He started to break down. He's in the same sort of age group that James Conner's in, that Derrick Henry's in. Let's be fair, Derrick Henry is also an older guy. And I seem to be the high guy still on Aaron Jones. Everybody wants to stay away from the old guys in fantasy. But here's the deal with him. If you're getting him where I would draft him, which is late round 6, early round 7, that's awesome value for a running back who can at least begin the season for you as an RB2. I guarantee you that when our week 1 rankings open up, all 3 of us will have Aaron Jones as a top 20 type running back against the New York Giants. That's a matchup that he should be able to exploit. But week 8, week 9, who knows if he'll be there? That's why he is falling in our rankings. That's why he's not a top 20 running back for us. His ADP does not match up with where we view him. I said I would take him in late round 6, early round 7. Our ADP has him in round 5. That's just way too soon for a running back like Aaron Jones. I'd rather have Conner, who's been able to give you solid production 3 straight seasons. He's I think he might be in a better offense than Minnesota's now that Minnesota has Sam Darnold under center. I think Conner is the better pick over Aaron Jones. And they're going real close to each other in drafts. Jones is one I'd try and stay away from, but I still seem to like him more than my colleagues here at CBS.
All right, Dave Richard breaking it down. Dave certainly appreciate it with the running back tiers. You know, it's interesting what a difference a year makes. Ramondre Stevenson was like a 3rd-round guy, and he's in tier 5. Then you have the Bengals running backs and the Titans running backs in tier 6. That's why we lean on guys like Dave, Jamie, and Heath. Scan the QR code, Adam Azer as well. Check out their show, Fantasy Football Today.